The sound of a sputtering engine echoed down the quiet suburban street. Jacob Miller tightened the strap on his worn-out work boots, sighed, and pushed the broken-down lawnmower to the shed. At 35, life had not been kind to him. He worked 2 jobs just to pay rent for the small, drafty house he shared with his 7-year-old daughter, Lily. His wife had passed away years ago, leaving him to raise their little girl alone. Money was always tight. Some nights, Jacob skipped dinner so Lily could eat. But no matter how tired or hungry he was, he never let his daughter see his pain. For her, he always wore a smile. One evening, as he returned from a long shift at the auto shop, Jacob noticed someone sitting on his porch. It was a young woman, no older than 20, clutching a worn backpack to her chest. Her clothes were clean but faded, her eyes puffy from crying. "Can I help you?" Jacob asked cautiously, setting down his tool bag. She looked up, startled. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to intrude. I just needed somewhere to sit for a moment." Lily peeked from behind her father's legs. "Daddy, who is she?" The girl managed a small smile at Lily. "My name is Emily. I'm a college student. I don't really have a place to stay right now." Jacob frowned. He didn't know this girl, and the last thing he needed was another responsibility. But something in Emily's trembling voice tugged at his heart. He saw the same kind of loneliness he had carried after losing his wife. "Look," Jacob said, scratching his head. "I don't have much, but you're welcome to stay for dinner. We can figure things out after." Emily's eyes widened. "Are you sure?" "Yeah," Jacob said with a shrug. "Just don't expect a feast. It's spaghetti night." That night, the 3 of them sat around their rickety kitchen table. Lily giggled as Emily told her funny stories from college, and Jacob found himself watching this stranger with curiosity. She was polite, humble, and seemed grateful even for the simplest meal. When it got late, Jacob offered her the small couch in the living room. "It's not much, but at least it's warm." Emily hesitated, then whispered, "Thank you. You have no idea how much this means to me." Days turned into weeks, and Emily slowly became part of their little family. She helped Lily with homework, cooked meals when Jacob was at work, and even patched his work shirts with an old sewing kit she carried. Jacob couldn't understand why a bright, capable young woman like her had no place to go. But he didn't pry. He knew what it meant to have secrets and pain too heavy to share. What Jacob didn't know was that Emily wasn't just any college student. She was the daughter of Richard Davenport, one of the wealthiest businessmen in the state. Emily had grown up in a mansion with servants, expensive cars, and endless privileges. But her father was strict, cold, and controlling. When Emily refused the marriage he had arranged for her with the son of a business partner, he cut her off financially and told her she was no longer welcome at home. For the first time in her life, Emily had to fend for herself. She worked odd jobs, but tuition and living expenses drained everything. Eventually, she found herself on the streets, until the night she stumbled onto Jacob's porch. One evening, Jacob returned home to find Emily sitting at the table with a notebook full of calculations. "What's all this?" he asked. She bit her lip. "I was going through your bills. I noticed you're behind on rent." Jacob's cheeks flushed with embarrassment. "That's not your concern." "But it is," Emily said gently. "You've done so much for me without asking anything in return. Let me help." He sighed. "Emily, I barely get by as it is. I don't need charity." "It's not charity," she insisted. "Think of it as gratitude." Jacob studied her earnest face and finally nodded. Maybe it wouldn't hurt to let someone care for him, just this once. As months passed, Jacob noticed changes in himself. He laughed more. He slept easier. For the first time since his wife's death, his house felt like a home again. And though he tried to ignore it, he couldn't deny the warmth growing in his chest whenever Emily smiled at him. But he also carried guilt. She was young, beautiful, and full of potential. She deserved so much more than a broke single dad with calloused hands and second-hand dreams. One rainy afternoon, Emily sat with Lily on the couch, reading a storybook aloud. Jacob leaned against the doorway, quietly watching. Something about the scene made his heart ache. It looked like a family. His family. "Emily," he said softly when Lily ran to her room to grab another book. "Why did you really end up here? You're smart, hardworking, you could be anywhere. Why us?" Emily looked down at her hands. Her secret burned on her tongue. She wanted to tell him the truth, but fear held her back. What if he treated her differently once he knew who she really was? What if he thought she had only pitied him? Instead, she whispered, "Because this feels like home." More than any mansion ever did. One day, everything changed. Jacob came home early from the auto shop to find a sleek black car parked outside his house. Standing on the porch was a tall man in a tailored suit, his expression sharp and commanding. "Emily," Jacob called cautiously as he stepped inside. Emily froze, her face pale. "Dad." Jacob's heart stopped. "Dad." Richard Davenport's eyes narrowed at Jacob. "So this is where you've been wasting your time? With him?" He looked around the shabby house with disgust. "Don't," Emily snapped, standing protectively near Jacob. "He's the one who took me in when you abandoned me." Richard's jaw tightened. "I gave you everything, Emily. And you threw it away for this?" He sneered at Jacob. "A mechanic who can't even pay his bills." Jacob felt anger rise, but before he could speak, Emily grabbed his hand. "He may not be rich, but he's more of a man than you'll ever be. He gave me love, kindness, and a family when you gave me nothing but money and rules." Richard's face darkened. "Come home with me now, or you'll regret it." Emily lifted her chin. "No, my place is here, with them." After Richard stormed out, Jacob sat heavily at the table, still reeling. "Emily, why didn't you tell me?" Tears filled her eyes. "Because I didn't want you to see me as a Davenport. I wanted you to see me as me. Just Emily." Jacob looked at her for a long moment, then smiled faintly. "Well, just Emily, you're welcome here for as long as you want." Months later, life looked brighter. Emily worked part-time, Jacob finally caught up on bills with her help, and Lily adored her as if she were an older sister. But the truth was clear to everyone, the bond between Jacob and Emily had grown into something deeper. One evening, as the sun set behind the old oak tree in the yard, Jacob turned to Emily. "You know, when you showed up on my porch that night, I thought I was just helping a stranger. I never realized you'd be the one saving me." Emily smiled through tears. "And I never thought I'd find real love in the simplest home." Lily ran out, holding both their hands. "Daddy, Emily, can we always be together?" Jacob and Emily exchanged a look, their hearts answering before their lips could. "Yes, sweetheart," Jacob whispered, pulling them both into his arms. "Always." And so, what began as a simple act of kindness turned into a story of love, redemption, and family. Because sometimes the poorest people give the richest love, and that love is worth more than all the money in the world.